So now we're going to look at creating text on a path in 3D space. And this is a really cool effect. So the basic idea is I want to take this text here and wrap it around an object. And in this case, the object is going to be the Earth. So to create the Earth, let's just go to the library. And in the content section, I'm going to go to the search field and just type in Earth. And Motion actually ships with a bunch of different Earth animations. We can just select them and see the little previews. I'm going to use this very basic one right here. So with the plate at the beginning of my project, I'm just going to drag it into the main group. Oh, by the way, I should mention, let me close this. The background we're starting with is a replicator that's making copies of this little small blur that is also available in Motion's library. So it's just making copies. In fact, if we look at the replicator in the inspector here, it's a rectangle set to random fill with a bunch of points that creates this. So if we turn the replicator off, the stars go away. So just a very simple way of creating some stars. If we look down at the bottom, they're scaled very small, 5%. I can scale them bigger and you can see what's going on there. That's a little blur that's being scaled down. So that's the background. Okay, so we've added this Earth. The Earth itself consists of a group that contains a graphic with the sphere filter that we've looked at before. So if I turn the sphere filter off, we can see that's the image that the sphere filter is wrapping around to look like a ball. And then there's a little parameter behavior to make it rotate. So if we play the project now, we've got a rotating Earth. It's very cool. Let's take it and press Command left bracket to move it below the text. So now our task is to wrap the text around the world in 3D space. Now, what we'll do in the inspector for the text, we're going to go to the layout section. This is the section that we keep coming back to when investigating different parts of it throughout this tutorial. The layout method is set to type, and we're going to choose path. That immediately puts the text on a path. Now, depending on what you've already chosen, it will probably show up for you as an open spline by default, which looks more like this. And you might wonder what's going on, but if you double click on the text, let me hit Command / to reveal our overlays, we can see that there's a little control handle. And we already have a little bit of offset. Let me set this offset back to 0. And that's because I was playing with this project already. Usually the path offset is set to 0. And we have control points that allow you to manipulate this path. Right now we're just working in 2D space. But you can create a very complex path that your text will follow. If you want to add more points, just hold the Option key and you can click and add more points to your path and really move them anywhere you want, adjust the Bezier handles, and create just about any kind of path that you want. And then you can use this path offset parameter to animate the text along the path. Notice how it shows up again when it goes off the edge. I like to turn off this wraparound checkbox down here so that when we drag in the path offset parameter, the text comes on and flies along the path and out. So that is a really flexible, great way to animate text onto a screen and have it wrap around an object in 2D space, an object of any kind of size or shape. However, what we're going to do here is choose the circle for the path. That puts the text on a path of a circle. Usually by default, inside path is not checked and the text is on the outside of the path. Now I'm going to press Escape to get out of the text tool here and drag this. And you can see how we can very quickly have a little animation of the text going around the Earth itself. So if we wanted to animate this in a continuing way, one way to do that would be to use a parameter behavior. So if I right-click on the words path offset and choose Add Parameter Behavior Rate, and then in the Behaviors Inspector, apply, I believe a negative rate will do the best job. Let's see. Now let's actually go for a positive rate. I'm playing back. It really depends what you want to do. You could go either way. I'm going to go negative, so it kind of looks more like you can read it. And there we have basically an ongoing animation. Let me make sure looping is enabled. And we have an ongoing animation, which will go on as long as the project plays, of the text wrapping around the Earth. So that's cool, but it's not quite what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a 3D wrapping around effect. So I'm going to go back to the text inspector. I'm just going to command click so this is not selected anymore. And what I want to do now is actually lay this text down. So what that means is And by the way, this usually is not a 3D group by default. So I'm going to make everything 2D. Because if you're building this from scratch, it will start out, everything is 2D. So I'm going to take this text, I'm going to use one of these rotation bands. If you don't see these for yourself, remember you need the Adjust 3D Transform tool selected. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and drag to rotate this exactly 90 degrees. So now that text is flattened down on the world. Now since I have added a camera to the scene, let's go ahead and enable 3D since I do have a camera in the scene. And I'm going to rotate up to take a look at what's going on. There's our text wrapping around the world. Of course, the world is a 2D object in 3D space. I'll double click to go back to this view where the original camera location is. And if I play now, we don't see a darn thing happening because the text is all kind of laying flat. If I go to the top view, there's our text, and it's certainly rotating around in 3D space, which is great, but we can't see it from the active camera view. So here's what we need to do, and this is really the key part of this. I guess the two key parts are, number one is laying it flat down, laying the entire text layer flat down. In other words, when I say laying it flat down, I've rotated this entire text layer by minus 90 degrees on the rotation x-axis. Okay, so that's really step one. In fact, let me just make this 0 so you can see that again. There's the text, and then I'll make it minus 90 to lay it down. Now, I want to stand the letters up. And I obviously can't use this control, but here's where we go to a special location to do this. I'll go to the text inspector. In the text inspector, in the format pane, are some advanced formatting controls. This is what we're interested in here. Specifically, rotation X. We rotated the whole thing by 90 degrees down, so I'm going to enter 90 here to stand the text up. If I play forward a little bit, now the text is standing up. In fact, let me just play with that and you'll see if I can lay it down the other direction or bring it up to stand up. So 90 degrees will stand it up. Of course, the problem is the text isn't reading quite right. It's backwards. So what we can do is go back to the layout section and turn on inside path. And then if we play through, the text will look correct. And now it's rotating around, and it's actually rotating around the world as the world rotates. So let's play that back. One more concept to show you here. If you'd actually like the text to be on an angle rather than straight across, you'll find that if you use the rotation controls, you won't be able to get there. But what you can do is select the text and put it in its own group by selecting Object, Group. And then you can rotate the group. So I'll select this little rotation handle here and turn the text on an angle. And that looks a little more interesting. And let's zoom in the camera a little bit closer. And there we have text rotating in 3D space around the world on a path. That brings us to the end of our Mastering Text in Motion tutorial. I hope you found it useful. I hope you got some good tips out of it. I had a great time delivering it, talking about it. I love working with text in motion. I hope you'll take what you learn here and use it in your projects. Please feel free to email me. You can send something to support@rippletraining.com. I'd love to see how you use this information in your own projects. You get questions, please let us know. Please check out Ripple Training for our other tutorials. Follow us on Twitter @RippleTraining and check us out on Facebook. And thank you very much for watching.